Tom.
What's up, Matt? How you been?
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I think you're probably doing better than me. You just got back from an amazing trip, I hear.
Oh man, yeah, I did. It was cool, man. I went to Iceland, and if there was ever a place on Earth that made you feel like you weren't actually on Earth, like
Yeah.
that's the place. Like, I mean, everything about it is foreign. Like, I mean, forget about the language, which by the way is just fucking awesome. I mean, let's be honest. It's like they speak like Viking and the shit is amazing.
It's
Like,
literally Viking.
dude, it's amazing. It's like this incredibly difficult language. I spent all week just trying to pronounce like the alphabet, and I finally feel like I got a preschool understanding of the alphabet like the day I left. Yeah, I was like, all right, I think I could say like 9 of these letters pretty fluently. Like,
How many are there? 75. They're all consonants.
right. Yeah. And it wasn't, yeah. And it's like, so we went to this bakery that, so my daughter, who, God bless her soul, she found out we were going to Iceland and like literally went on the internet and was like, here's the 10 things we got to do in Reykjavik. And I was like, wow. Like, look at you. You're like my little personal AI over here. I'm just like, hey, going to Reykjavik.
You're my little own lonely planet book.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You tell me what's going on. So she had a list. We were on it. And all week we were saying we're going to Broad and Company, right? And that's what it said. BRAUD is what it looked like, right? But it's a D with a little stick through, like a curvy back, like it's a D that curves back on itself with a stick through it.
You can't have an American public education and expect to even know that letter exists.
No, of course not. Like I'd never seen this letter before either. And I'm like looking at it. I'll tell you what. Took 7 days in Iceland to still not have any expectation of how I found out you say that word. Broit is how you say, yeah, like, which is pretty much 0% like broad,
Very different word.
Yeah. And we're laughing. We found out from the taxi driver, we're like literally waiting for our cab to the airport to come. It was the only thing left on our bucket list. And I was like, you know what? Things like 4 miles away. Fuck it. Let's get a cab. We're doing it right now. We're going to go get a pastry there. We're going to take a picture out front. We're going to check the last thing off the list.
Yeah.
And we went and grabbed it. And I'm talking to him like, hey, I got to go to Broad and Company. And the guy looks at me. He's like, and everybody speaks English. So it's not like, this is not like you're not in a foreign language.
They're probably like, you dumbasses.
Yeah, he was even worse. He was like, I literally have no idea what you're saying. So I was like, all right. So I pulled it up on my phone. I pull it up on my phone and he goes, aha, Broit. And I'm murdering it for all Icelanders listening to this. I apologize for murdering your language, but I'm sure I'm not even saying it right. But
we're killing it in Iceland too.
Yeah. So, but it's like Broit and Company. And I'm like, yeah, so that pretty much not even close to what we've been saying for 7 days, but cool. Like, thank you. Yeah, no. And then it was like, the pastries in Iceland are kind of next level, like things are like, yeah, it's good. So, nothing was wrong with Broith and Company. Like I was like, oh yeah, this place is legit. Good. Yeah. So how you been, man? I know we took a little time off for this.
Man, we did. I gotta say, I'm tomorrow is my absolute last day in my business accelerator through Goldman Sachs. And it's bittersweet, man. I'm loving getting free time back, but
sure.
I'm sad because I'll be honest, it's been a long time since I've been in a room full of people and liked everybody in that room.
Yeah, no. And especially the circumstances. I sound like a horrible
bastard, but it's like, no, I actually enjoy the presence of everyone there.
Well, and you're in a unique experience shared with them. So you're like even more.
Like a band of brothers kind of thing, like we're all going through this together.
Right. Yeah. No, dude, but it's awesome. So you're at the end of it. So, I mean, hey, spoiler alert, good experience,
if they said you can sign up again for the next one, I'd be right in line, but I kind of need some free time back.
Yeah. I gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? If I could just do that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm actually always been curious about that program. If you want
to apply, I can put you in as a alumni referral.
I love it. Let's do that.
I'll do that when we get off of this.
Yeah, no, so So you know what? Maybe this is a good spot to jump in on, actually, right?
Do it.
Like, yeah.
Just jump in.
So here's the deal. I've told you about the molecule before, right? Like we've had
we
this
talked about the
conversation.
molecule.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like that situation is kind of heating up right now.
That's awesome.
And here's the funny thing, and I'm just putting this together. This actually really kind of ties directly in accidentally, and I didn't plan that, I promise. So I find myself in a very weird position, right? Like I now have a tangible thing, right? Like there's a thing to chew on now, right? It's real, it's outlined, it's laid out, it's legitimate, it's all the ducks are in a row, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
And we're working through that, but we saw, one of the things we wanted to talk about today was Sinclair's recent $10 million, shot in the arm to do. I mean, would it be fair to say it's like partial science at this point, or plausible science at this point? Like,
I think probable is a good enough word.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the probable part, but like, so quickly, let's play a little game of bounce between my story and Sinclair's, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Right. So I have a resource, like in a product that is got a whole lot of anecdotal evidence, and a whole lot of nothing in terms of clinical evidence, right? And I gotta say, in my humble opinion, Sinclair's situation isn't a whole ton different.
No.
I guess the notable asterisk there is that isn't he head of genetics for Harvard or something like that? Like, I mean, he's like, he's steeped in this industry, like he's like in it balls deep, like, and so his anecdotal evidence is probably closer to clinical evidence than, say, your average bear. Is that fair?
He's got studies and he knows what he's looking at.
Right. And he's a really good ninja of interpreting that data, right? Like he's got a supreme handle on what the data means and how to, like, he's a great Rosetta Stone, right? Is that fair, you think?
I think so.
Right. And here this guy gets $10 million, right? $10 million is a lot of money, and even these tech startups that you hear got $100 million or $1 billion raises, that was like their fifth round of doing that.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't their first.
They weren't valued at that right off the get-go.
No. They raised $1 million, then they raised 20 million, then they raised 100 million. You know what I mean? It just it kept going, but
they
was
had proof of concept by previous products.
Correct. Like, and it's funny because we live in a world right now that is not actually, the bar doesn't even matter anymore, right? Like, we see things like FDA, we see things, like regulatory rules of any kind, not pinning it into one organization like FDA, but we see rules for very good reason on paper, right? Like extremely good reasons on paper. Like, look, we don't want some charlatan building snake oil in his fucking trunk.
Yeah, and killing a million people. Yeah.
Right. And killing people. Right. So at the heart of this is a very logical argument to make. The problem, as we now know it, right, and we've talked about this before, is that the system is too lethargic to keep up with the pace of innovation right now.
And innovation is going minute by minute, if even minute by minute.
Correct. It's the genie is way out of the bottle on the innovation side. And like, we keep talking about AI. I mean, I got to put my dick in that mashed potato all day because, like, I'll tell you what, this shit is not going away. And in fact, it's actually seriously changing the landscape of our conversations when it comes to a lot of this stuff because, in the last 45 to 60 days, I know more than a dozen companies that have written business plans using ChatGPT.
It is like, scary.
Like, I mean, and these are people who are securing collectively 9 figures of, investment money.
Yeah.
And it's, and look, these what better hook than live forever, right? Like it doesn't, like, I mean, what better way to just be like, Yes, here's a blank check. You can put
Well,
any number.
you know, and it's crazy because you say it so positively, live forever, right? Oh my God, you could live forever. But what's our biggest fears as human beings? It's fucking dying.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like you're
number
low key,
one.
like we are
Right.
playing with your fears here. You
Yeah,
won't
heights.
die. You're like, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, heights. Yeah, I can get over that. You know, agoraphobic. Yeah, you know what? Not the end of the world. Dying, that is actually the end of the world. Like
that is no one stops that.
Yeah, right. So no, listen, it's absolutely true, right? And so it's interesting because now, you know, so back to the bar thing, right? The bar used to be set like, don't kill people, like it's good for, you know, it's good for you, it helps more people than it hurts, like yada yada, right?
Yeah.
But in this day and age, what Sinclair's doing in particular is extremely cutting edge science, meaning some of it is actually days to weeks old, not to mention like, so there's no staying power. Like a lot of that shit is like very contemporaneous.
Yeah.
So you can't possibly have laws that were written 50 years ago that can govern that pace. Like it's physically impossible.
You know, and
it's not even an indictment on the FDA. The rules aren't bad. The topography has changed and they have not. And that is a thing that we have to deal with.
Let's face it, the government across the board is woefully slow. And when it drops the hammer, it often misses the mark.
But here's the thing, though. If I'm slow at enacting tax reform or, you know, whatever, you know, like, which is what government is like, look, net, that like, that's the shit they're mostly in charge of, right?
Yeah.
Health is like one sliver of all the shit that they're in charge with. So like one thing I always thought was a little disingenuous was to blame this all on the government, because I'm like, you know what, look, you're not wrong.
No, you can't. But you know, I think some of the other scientific minds that are kind of clapping back at this whole situation where it's like, oh, now you're getting $10 million to launch your own products. Hey, what happened when you were saying, no, I'm never going to recommend anything?
But see, that's and you know, in that book that we reviewed here, we actually, he actually expressly said that, like, I won't endorse a product, but I'll tell you what I do. And look, you and I think I'd have to check the show, but like, I'm pretty sure we said at the time, we're like, look, it's naive to think that if you are in a content creation situation and this was your entire, you know, like, you know, advertising basically, right? Like, because that really was,
that's what the book was,
right? That it was a huge billboard, right, for him. And I'm not, this isn't shitting on him.
Even if he didn't make a product,
correct,
he still is bringing attention to his lab. He's
personal,
like, people are going to hand him money as grants.
100%. And
you know, it makes total sense. I mean, I'm not against it. In fact, you know,
and I'm not knocking it at all. That's where I was going.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like a huge fan of it, but here's the thing. Like, I mean, you and I don't take money to do anything or have conversations, but like,
we haven't been offered, by the way. We haven't been offered.
Well, there's that too. But even if we were, like, you and I'm going to guess, like, this isn't a revenue project for us. This is a thought experiment and a
thought experiment.
It's a salon. Yeah. Right. It's a salon for us to explore our little thought experiment. Right. And so, you know, but here's the thing. If we turn that into a thing and it became like more of a, you know, like we're quitting our day job sort of thing, right? Like, you gotta like support it. So like a guy raising $10 million and one component of that, hopefully the biggest component of it, is a revenue generator, which will give shareholders ROI and thus ensure future capital, which will thus ensure more growth. It has to include a product, like, period. Like, it's not,
they have to be able to generate money,
like, that's
one
just
way or another.
Like, that's just reality.
It's the nature of the beast. In this system, yes, it's not, hey, here's a bunch of really cool knowledge that'll help you live forever for the sake of it.
No, it's that, and it's $200 a dose, and a monthly subscription is $49. You know,
and that one of the things, Matt, that I think some of the detractors were talking about, and I'll give them credence to this. One of the things is, how many of these experiments have been repeated, right? He talks a lot
Yeah, we
about,
talked about that here. Yeah,
reversing the
Zero,
age of
like
a mouse.
single digit percentage.
Well, how does that translate to a human? Is it 1 for 1? Are we? Yeah, they're similar, but can we do it in a person without killing them? Right? Remember what we've talked about Upload a ton, right?
Sure.
When they tried to put a consciousness back into a body, and the body would always explode.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was hysterical.
No, that was that other movie that with Keanu Reeves. That was that.
Keanu, my guy Keanu.
Yeah, talk about a crazy situation. He had to kill his family members, like his wife and 2 kids. But he had 3 kids, and he only had shells for he had to basically not bring back one of the children. So he had to go into their brains and find in their neural network all memories of this child and delete them from each of their brains.
I didn't see that movie. I don't think I'm capable of handling that movie emotionally.
So it gets worse. Then he went around and he deleted, like, there was like a picnic table where she had drawn, it was a girl had drawn like a little like thing, and he had to scrub it off, and you had this like agony on his face because, like, look, during COVID in my family room, my daughter, she took a desk in the family room. And because she was on we got her one of those mechanics chairs from Harbor Freight, the round ones. Yeah, right. And she rolled around all the time. There is a worn spot on the floor in my family room. And it's a part of this construction project that we're in right now. They're actually going to refinish that floor. So I'm going to lose that.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, it's a giant eyesore and it fucking is stupid. But
it has sentimental value.
Literally every time I pass it, like, I remember, like, I have a visceral memory of that. And like, it's super. So like, you see this guy with this emotional response where he's like literally like erasing it. You can tell he saw the day that his daughter drew it and everything like that. But what was interesting, and this is the science fiction part, but quick sidestep, maybe not science fiction. The neural network is so complicated that even though you deleted the acute memories of that person, you didn't delete the fuzz of that memory around the peripheral.
Around it. Yeah.
And like, there's a part where one of the kids was like, hey, didn't there used to be something here? Like, they didn't really know. And it was just so fascinating. Like, cause like, yeah, that shit was like way fringe, but it's a very short conversation to justify how that happens, right? Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we can print hearts soon enough here. We can do all these things with robotics. We have all this command over genetics. Oh, and by the way, we're like probably within 10 years of successfully uploading an entire consciousness to a computer. Now, what happens when that, we've had this conversation as well too, but like, we're just in like a new age here, you know what I mean? And like, so when I see this Sinclair thing and I've got this opportunity in my own life, like, it's interesting because like, there's a whole bunch of new realities with this that we never had before. One, there's no bar. I could be right. I could be wrong. I could be lying. I could be telling you the God's honest truth. At the end of the day, we all know one thing for sure. I'm selling you something, period.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's it. Right. And so somebody who's savvy and paying attention understands that all things need to be evaluated first and foremost through that lens.
Yeah.
Like, I am telling you that I created a molecule like Sinclair. What's Sinclair's molecule do? It's like, he said he's like 2 decades younger or something like that because of the molecule, the ribosin and what is that? The NAD thing he sells.
Oh, MN.
No, it's like ribose, like nicotinamide ribose or something like that. I think it's called. He has a shit. What's it called? Yeah, I think it's nicotinamide. Huh?
Now he has a product.
He's got a product. He's had a product for a little while that it's like this molecule that he said he kind of just, I don't know if he said he discovered it. Actually, that's not fair, but it's one of his things. And I think it's one of those NAD precursors, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So I think it's called you could look it up, nicotinamine ribose. And I think it's an NAD. Hold on, I'm going to do the same thing. I think it's an NAD precursor.
Nicotinamide?
Yeah, ribose.
Riboside.
Yeah, is it riboside? Did I get that wrong? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There you go. And
it's a precursor.
Yep.
Of NAD.
Yeah. Exactly.
And a source of B3. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, but So all of those things are B complex, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So like any of the NAD things are going to be some kind of B. Like you get it for the ride, free for the ride. Like, which actually, it's funny. I started taking a B complex drop like probably about 2 years ago now. What a great little zing to the stack. You know what I mean? Like it really has been, I have a weirdly sustained energy. You know what I mean? Like
that's good. When I found that I had 2 heterozygous MTHFR genes, and we did my blood levels of B12, and there was a ton of B12, and they're like, yeah, the problem is you're just not absorbing it.
Right.
You're not processing it. And I switched to a methylated version. It kicked my ass. I was like, oh my God, this is like a drug.
You know what? And we've had that conversation before, and I actually have yet to do that, but I really wanted to try that because I have my 23andMe.
Well, your concierge doc should be able to.
Well, I have my 23andMe raw data, so I think it's pretty easy to find out.
You know what? There is. I don't know if the company's still around because it's way back when I first did my 23andMe. You can upload that for free, and they'll tell you whether or not you have it.
Yeah, if you find that, let me know. Because I every once in a while, I'm like, you know what? I got to start. I want to go on like a documented deep dive about like, what can I do for free or super cheap with my 23andMe raw data? Like, what are all the cool shit I could find out about myself?
I'm looking at it right now. Use your DNA raw data to understand your methylation. Oh,
yeah, I mean,
found my fitness. That's our girl. We love her. I'm gonna send you hers because I know hers is gonna be good.
Well, so while you're looking that up, but like just to keep going because I want to
definitely let's not let the show
slide
because I'm googling shit.
Yeah. So here's the thing: like you have no barrier to entry. You have no bar to entry. I don't want to say no barrier, but you have no bar to entry, right? The FDA really can't guide a lot of this stuff because it's like
it's so new.
It's so new, and like
it's not technically a drug.
Right. And as long as you're not making any real claims, like you're kind of okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's.
And when you actually do something, the FDA will come knocking.
What do you know?
Mean? Like if you start doing things and people start reporting, oh my God, I feel this, I feel younger, I feel more energy.
Oh, I see.
Even if you're like, hey, it's just a supplement, it's just a supplement. The FDA is going to come along and go, well, we'll be the judge of that.
Right. Well, sorry, just like found something in my desk. I'm like, what is this? It's like
you're cool, man.
So yeah, no, and like forget about even if it wasn't happening so fast, like their rules don't apply to the playground that this stuff is playing on, right? Like it's not, it's like not.
You're not trying to treat a disease.
Yeah,
Like
so, like Sinclair's a great example, right? Like this molecule is probably a supplement. I don't know what the delivery mechanism is, but I'm guessing it's a pill. You had taken on a regimen and it does whatever it does, but all he can say is, well, it's a NAD precursor, yada, and that's what this means. And here's what this chemical does with this chemical. They can make a lot of fancy sounding things, and that's cool. I get it. But here's the thing, like we used to shit on these kinds of people, and I still kind of do. But at the same time, now you're sitting there going, okay, but the reality is that these companies all need a revenue source in order to propagate. And if there is a pot of gold at the end of any one of these people's rainbows, it's never going to be found unless they can keep it going, right?
Yeah.
And like to keep it going, you got to sell something.
Yeah, and I think to your point, right? It's they might have the best, like hey, I want to save humanity from X, Y, and Z. That may be in the background, but they damn well know that unless they can sell it, it's never gonna get into humanity's hands.
No, absolutely not. And that's exactly right. And because of that, like personal trainers, right? We all know that. What Ben Greenfield even said, the dirty secret of being a personal trainer is you got to write a diet book.
It's almost the cost of entry.
Yeah, because if you don't, then you're never going to get anybody to listen to you. And it's funny, just to take a trite side turn here, like you can literally use that in if you wrote a weight loss book for literally any topic you could imagine, you have an instant.
Well, now you're a health expert.
Correct.
If you wrote a weight loss book, you are a health expert.
Yeah, but if you wrote a health expert, if you wrote a weight loss book on the travel to Iceland in 7 days diet and then backed it up with just words, you're good.
But like, how many times have we picked up a book and you're like, oh, this is just paleo, but you're saying you can eat this?
No,
this is the carnivore diet, except you have a salad.
Yeah, the answer, Tom, is all of them.
All of them.
Like all of them.
And then you pull it back and you're like, oh, if I don't eat shit out of a box, I'm doing better than everybody else.
Oh, and I love these.
It's like it's that easy. Don't eat shit out of a box.
Yeah, it's so funny that you said that, because like just the other day I was having a conversation with a friend of Sarah's and they were like, oh yeah, I'm on this diet. It was this and that. I'm like, oh, so basically no processed foods. And they're like, no, it's this. And I'm like, you kind of just defined, like, what's the opposite of processed
this
food?
health guru from LA told me that if I have a glass of lemon water every day and, I cook all my own meals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't eat processed food.
Yeah. Right. So parentheses, don't chug down on a bunch of sugar at night.
It doesn't sound sexy. There isn't a fit looking person on the cover of the book.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's crazy. So yeah, I don't know. So I guess what I want to admit here to myself and kind of take this into the finish line on this, but I think that I used to really kind of be down on people that were just sort of doing this to sell things. And I still largely am for the people that are doing it only to sell something. The problem is that the environment that we're in, to be truly transformative, you need a cash cow, right? And so
you need to raise the capital to actually
So what
things.
Right. And I'm trying to figure out what the new bar or the new yardstick looks like, right? Like, so now you're like, all right, cool. So we got to give you a pass on being like a product oriented company, because that's kind of a new reality.
That's what, you're either a product or a service based company.
Right. So how do we make sure, like, what's the next way we can verify that you're just not in it for the quick cash?
And that's the craziest thing, right? Okay, here's a guy with a Harvard credential and a PhD and all this stuff, right? And you're like, oh, he's really well educated. But, we both know that there's some fool that's watched, 1,000 hours of YouTube that's probably the brightest person in every room he's in.
Sure.
So you can't even, it's such a, and you remember, like, we were both at this event, and the creator of TED Talk, I believe, talked to he's Stephen Kotler or somebody, right? And they were going back and forth, and Richard Saul
Werman.
Thank you. Yeah, and said, "Hey, you keep quoting this Harvard study. Who the hell cares if it's Harvard?" That was his point. He's like, "What does that mean? Does that mean it's better? Another university couldn't have done that study just as well?"
Right. No, but that's the thing. Like, it's all marketing.
Saying, like, you're hanging credentials on a thing that used to be really prestigious, and now it's like, oh, people who go there's families have a lot of money,
right? Right? Yeah. I mean, dude, marketing is everything, right? Like, it is literally everything, right? And so these things all make sense.
Everybody's got to, earn to compete,
Yeah, totally. So anyway, so moving on, I guess.
We're going to change up gears. We're going to talk about biohacking going wrong.
No, well,
no.
It's the perfect, it's the perfect step two to this, which is we went back and we kind of took a look at some early biohacking, and I'll be honest with you, I laugh at it, right? Because it's gross and super laughable, but at its time, it was being completely
cutting edge technology.
No, it was this conversation. Like, it was
absolutely
the avant-garde of health at the time. And just as sure as we are that NAD is the mitochondrial savior and, panacea for everything from cognitive disorder to chronic illness, that was dude, freeze me. I'll come back. It's good. We're good. Like, we believe it's different, but is it really that different? Like,
well, yeah, it's, and this gets back to the biases we always talk about. Clearly, we're the smartest we've ever been, right?
yeah.
Clearly, we know more than everybody behind us because we have their information. We can't be wrong.
Yeah, correct.
And I don't. It is now when we look at it, it sounds kind of goofy, but
hold on, does it though? Like, so we're talking about cryogenics, right? And like, by the way, it should be noted, I had to look this up, but like, cryogenics is still a thing. Like, people are still
a thing.
Yeah, like, people are still into this fringe idea.
This is Walt Disney's head in Epcot Center's golf ball that we're talking about here.
Right,
we're gonna put you in a freezer and preserve your body until we can cure you.
Right. And somebody told me once that Walt Disney is just the head. Like, he figured
that was the rumor. I don't think any of that was true.
Like, they'll just figure out, they're like, look, if we've got the science to bring you back to life, we've probably got the science to figure out how to build you a body. Walt
was just being cheap.
What?
Walt was just being cheap. It was like just one of the richest man in the world at the time and didn't freeze his whole body. But
so here's the funny part about all this, though. So the idea, let's take a quick journey, shall we? The idea is that you'll freeze yourself and they'll reanimate you at the point in which they have a cure for the disease you died from or have a way to actually fix what was wrong with you, and you can go back to living the rest of your life. Like, so essentially it was sort of a pause button, right? It wasn't more than
that. But now this is one of the things that I'm unclear about, because I'm pretty sure you had to die first, right? They didn't kill you.
No, you were dead.
So you already died of said disease.
Correct. And you were frozen within minutes of your actual death.
It sounds like a frozen veggies commercial.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Frozen
minutes after being picked.
Yeah, right.
Freshly harvested right in the freezer.
Yeah. And like, look, we could look at that conversation and be like, these people are a little loopy. Like, who would ever think that's true? But like, look what fucking Sinclair's talking about right now. He's talking about taking a series of pills and living 40, 50, 60 years longer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but I for me, even if we go, okay, the science is sound.
Right.
Doesn't it make more sense? Like, all right, you haven't already succumbed to said disease. We've stopped said disease. But on the same token, if I was rich as hell, I was going to die anyway.
Sure.
And there was a chance.
I'm hedging.
Yeah, freeze me.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, you're not wrong there. But like, it's funny though, like when you think about the cryogenic argument, right? Biohacking then was playing offense, right? Like, and biohacking now is decidedly playing defense. And I think it's interesting how that's actually switched up because, back then, along with other things that they were thinking, like other cognitive barriers that kept them in boxes back then, they just didn't know any better, right? Like, so they were like, all right, so health is an offensive thing, not a defensive thing. Like, you get sick, then we do something.
Then you go do something.
Like, yeah, right? Like, and we're going to form the most baller offense ever. And now it's like literally the exact opposite.
And freezing you is, we're going to keep playing the game after you're gone.
Right. Well, and the freezing part is like, yeah, we're
just going to take a time out for a little bit.
And listen, I got to tell you, I mean, just like, look, I don't even have to pretend very hard here. I just basically substitute cryo for, anything. Like, I just put life extension in there and then I can pull in all the references from there. Right. But like, look what happened to this. Like, here's the sobering part about this, right? Like, these people ended up being like science experiments. Like, they were, they decomposed to a gelatinous mush.
What did they say? A liquefied plug at the bottom of these containers?
Right. Which is fucking gross, man. But here's where they might have got it right. They might have immortality, but not for the reason they signed up for. Because not too much longer, that gelatinous muck still has raw DNA.
Hopefully it's not. Yeah, So this was, when we were talking about bringing up this subject, right? When we freeze water, we know it expands. So that is part of the thing. Like, you got to be able to restore those cells, and
not to extract a genome,
but still, heat and cold do screw with DNA.
Okay.
So an extreme cold might damage a protein enough or a DNA helix that you can't get a good sample. This is why the Jurassic Park thing was such a crazy idea, because it's like, look, all right, you got this mosquito that's perfectly preserved in amber. And in that mosquito is, I don't know, pick your favorite dinosaur DNA. That may be perfectly preserved because it's been put in a living syringe and then encapsulated in a thing that's not getting too hot, too cold. It's not getting oxygen. But like this extreme temperature, I'm wondering if you can salvage DNA from it. I mean, I don't know if the article actually got into that. At least not the one from
it didn't. It didn't. No. In this particular article, it didn't. But here's the fun thing about living in 2023. Everything has no more rules. With AI and everything else, like, you just have to be like, all right, look, here's the thing. Any stupid thing I could think up right now is just as likely as any other stupid thing somebody else could think up. That's very true. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, all right, well, if that was true, if everything I say could possibly be true, what would that sound like? And then you just kind of go for it, because like, that's kind of where we're at, right? Like, I mean, there's no conversation that's not like kind of plausible, right? Like, it's sort of, you're living in Alice in Wonderland, essentially, right? Like, it's,
you know what? And one of the articles I did read was like, look, it may sound crazy, but I'm already dead. Why not?
Oh, right. Well, no, I'm just not even talking about that. I'm just talking about the whole enchilada, right? Like,
it's in 2023 with AI, with the advances in longevity. Yeah, it might not be the craziest thing.
And it's funny, I've done a bunch of, I was looking for holes in these stories, right? So I'm like doing like, quote, negative reviews after, Sinclair fundraising and all this stuff. I'm like kind of looking around, and it's interesting. Like a lot of those people make some kind of like really weird arguments this way or the other. And I'm like, well, look, at the end of the day, this is like the ultimate provable thing, right? Like, let the guy get the money, like let's see what he can do. It's not irrational. The guy can do something cool, like, already. Best case scenario, he invents a cure for aging. Worst case scenario, he did something else cool, because I'm sure something comes out of this. Like, you know what I mean? It might not be that. And I know that's the pot of gold you're looking for, but maybe you just, get something else instead, right? And I think that's the other interesting part about this whole field, is that you like this, right? These people got frozen to live forever or to live longer. We might have fucked up the frozen part, but let's just say we can get viable sample from them. We could clone them and age accelerate them to the age they were when they died.
Now, until we have the ability to get their consciousness, though, that is just a clone, without the same programming, without the same social influences. That's not the same person.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I'm just saying we could, there's like a side. Yeah. So going forward, it's like basically making a deal with Satan, right? Like you say, I want to be famous, and you didn't specify how, and like, you're famous now. All of a sudden he snaps his fingers and you're famous because like you murdered like 70 school children and and the whole world knows who you are and you're super famous, but everyone fucking wants to kill you.
Everyone hates you. Yeah.
Right. Like, so it's like one of those kind of things. But yeah, I love knowing this, because it kind of makes me sober about the things. We all have to have a high bullshit meter. We've talked about that before, right?
Yeah.
But aside from just a bullshit meter, you just have to have like an ability to really temper all of this, right? Because like, we've made fun of these health gurus before. I'm like, for 29 hours a day, if you just do the following things, you'll live forever. So when you hear stuff like, oh, you know, these cryogenic guys turned into like silly putty at the bottom of it's disgusting, by the way. Let's talk about how gross
and by
it
the
is.
way,
They're like shoveling them out. The guy was like, we would have to shovel it out. I'm like,
it's from Big Think, and it's called Horror Stories of Cryonics.
oh,
and what Matt is describing, he's not even talking about like people's hearts shattering from freezing too quickly.
Oh,
and
no,
their spinal cords rupturing, and it's like, at that point they just thawed him out and buried him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. But here's the thing, like, to your point, like, there's two things the two things could have happened right there, right? Like, I'm close to death. Fuck it. I'm going to hedge. Let's go for it. And two, like, it actually worked. Like, right? Like, you know, those are your two options. And like, there's a lot of fucking room in the middle of those two spots. Like, you know, but can you imagine I don't know. That's always my fear, though. I'll be honest with you, with these supplements and all these weird shit that I take. I'm like, all right, one of these things is giving me like the vestigial tails growing back.
A new disease that no one's ever heard of.
Or like a new disease that's never existed and now is because I'm taking this wacky.
In 10 years, there's going to be some research and being like, oh man, did you take all those supplements? Yeah, it's horrible for you. Horrible.
Yeah. Whoops. Yeah. Or like, what was that?
You live to 160, but it's going to be about 70 years of complete suffering.
Yeah. Right. What was that, that movie, I Am Legend? Where like the cure for cancer was made, but it actually turned everyone into a fucking zombie.
I mean, plausible.
No, it's totally plausible. You kidding me? Like, yeah, check. I buy it 100%. I'm good. Yeah. You know,
in fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if they were like, 2024 is going to be a much better year than the last few. And it's like, no, zombie apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, zombies are here. They're coming, and they're going to be driven.
All I'm going to be doing is like, all those fat dudes on those Reddit groups were right.
Right. No, you know what's going to be leading them? Chip implant in their brain that's controlled from a Chat GPT bot.
It probably will.
Like, sending a bunch of clones, like, you know, age accelerated clones of some frozen guy. You know, it's got no consciousness of any kind, but you could direct it to do anything you wanted to do. You know, like, you know, and you could direct 3,000 of them to do anything you wanted to because, hey, it's test tubes. Well, I'll buy more test tubes. Oh man.
Did you all right. The plot of the Clone War? The plot of the Clone Wars? Wow, I completely screwed that up.
Oh, that's funny. So what do you get into, man? What's next?
You know, like, I'm going to take a week where I'm just going to work in the office and not do anything outside. And I know that sounds woefully boring, but after this business course, man, I need a week to recover. And then, you know, my main goal is to get a cupping book done that I've been promising since I think COVID hit.
Right. You have been talking about this book for a bit.
It's time to wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, let's get to it, buddy.
And I know you just got back from a freaking amazing vacation, but what are you doing?
I am full steam on my book on metacognition and multidisciplinary thinking. And I am very happy because I've got like 10 interviews scheduled now with people, dialogues, 20 different people in total to do dialogues about just having a friendly conversation about a problem in somebody's field that may be influenced by some shared unexamined assumptions.
Yeah.
And how does that get solved when you bring somebody into the conversation who has no fucking idea what you're talking about? Like, they're not saddled by those
same limitations that you built yourself into.
Correct. And you were actually one of our guinea pigs, right? Like
I was a test subject.
Yeah. And that experiment that you helped me start last year is now in full
effect.
Yeah. So like, you know, I used that as the guinea pig and then designed the system around it and like did a bunch of research to kind of support how I want it to go. And now we're at that phase where we do that. And phase after that is to then kind of concatenate the data and, you know, like call it down. And then last phase is to write a book on it. So we're
great.
we're sort of like step 3 now on this, you know, like it's a long one. It's a long one, but hey, we'll figure it out. So
awesome, man. Awesome.
Cool, man. Well, listen, until next week, I guess. Have a good one.
You too.
Cool, man. Take care.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.